The mornings in Portland had a particular way of awakening. The sun filtered through the leafy canopies of pine trees, creating golden patches on the damp ground of the ecological park that bordered the street where Lily Rhodes lived. At 10 years old, she already knew every sound, every movement of that small green sanctuary that extended beyond the gate of her house. Seated in her electric wheelchair, Lily observed from her bedroom window the morning dance of robins among the branches. Her neuromuscular condition had never been an impediment to her curiosity about the natural world. On the contrary, it seemed to have sharpened her senses in a way that surprised even the doctors who had been following her since she was little. "Lily, breakfast is on the table." The voice of Uncle Marcus echoed through the hallway, carrying that constant impatience she knew well. Marcus Andrews had assumed guardianship of his niece after the tragic accident that took his sister from the family. A 45-year-old man, a civil engineer by profession, he had always shown little aptitude with children, especially one who required special care. His gestures were mechanical, his words calculated, as if following an established protocol. "Coming, Uncle Marcus," replied Lily, skillfully maneuvering her chair through the corridors of the spacious house. The breakfast table was a reflection of Marcus's personality, organized, functional, without any touch of coziness. He leafed through a stack of papers, while drinking black coffee, his eyes scanning lines of text with a concentration that bordered on obsession. "What are those documents?" asked Lily, curious, while spreading jelly on her bread. "Guardianship matters. Nothing you need to worry about." The response came dryly, accompanied by a look that discouraged further questions. Lily was accustomed to these evasive answers. Since she had come to live with her uncle, she felt like a guest in her own life. He tended to her basic needs with efficiency, but there was an emotional distance that she couldn't fully comprehend. After breakfast, as she did every morning, Lily headed to the backyard. The property bordered the ecological park, and there she found the refuge she sought. She positioned her chair under the shade of a centuries-old silk cotton tree and opened one of her books about veterinary medicine. That's when she saw him for the first time. Among the distant trees, a dark silhouette stood out against the vegetation. A horse with an almost black coat, with a mane that danced to the rhythm of the morning breeze. He remained motionless, as if observing her attentively. Lily blinked several times, thinking she might be imagining it. Horses weren't common in that urban area of Portland. When she looked again, he was still there, maintaining the same posture of silent observation. "How strange," she murmured to herself. The animal showed no signs of nervousness or agitation. On the contrary, there was something profoundly serene about his presence, as if he had belonged to that place for a long time. Lily closed her book slowly, not taking her eyes off the distant figure. Minutes passed in a silence charged with meaning. The girl felt an inexplicable connection with that presence, as if a silent conversation was happening between them. Then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the horse moved away among the trees, leaving only the whisper of leaves as witness to the encounter. "Lily, come inside. It's time for your physical therapy exercise." Marcus's voice cut through the moment, like a blade. She hesitated, looking once more in the direction where the horse had been. Nothing, just the dense green of the vegetation and the singing of birds. Perhaps it had been just her imagination. That night, while Marcus spoke on the phone in his office with someone about urgent financial matters, Lily remained awake, thinking about the mysterious visitor. There was something in those eyes. Even at a distance, she had managed to perceive the intelligence and serenity that emanated from them. She didn't know yet, but that first encounter marked the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from. Let's continue. The next few days brought a routine that defied any logic. Always at the same time, around 9 in the morning, the horse appeared. Lily began to mentally call him Windrunner, because of the way his mane stirred even on windless days. "You came back," she whispered on the third morning, settling in her chair beneath the silk cotton tree. The animal maintained the same respectful distance, as if understanding that there were invisible boundaries between them. Marcus showed no interest in his niece's morning activities. He spent hours on the phone or hunched over papers, always with that tense expression that intensified each day. Lily noticed how he became especially irritated when letters from lawyers arrived. "Uncle, can I ask you something?" she ventured during lunch. "What is it?" He didn't raise his eyes from his plate. "Why do these letters from lawyers keep arriving? Does it have to do with Mom's inheritance?" The fork stopped in mid-air. Marcus stared at his niece with an expression that mixed surprise and something she couldn't completely identify. Perhaps irritation, perhaps nervousness. "You don't need to worry about these things. They're adult matters," he finally replied, returning to eat with mechanical movements. "But I'm not such a little kid anymore. And the inheritance is mine, isn't it?" "Lily," his voice came out harsher than he intended, "some things are complicated. When you turn 18, we can talk about this better." The girl realized she had touched on a sensitive point. She knew that tone of voice well. It was the same one Marcus used when he wanted to definitively end a subject. But her curiosity remained sharp. That afternoon, she positioned herself again in the garden, this time carrying an apple in her lap. Windrunner appeared punctually, as if responding to a silent call. Lily extended the fruit toward the animal, keeping her chair motionless. The horse hesitated. His eyes seemed to evaluate not just the offer but the entire situation. Then, with cautious steps, he began to approach. Each movement was calculated, elegant like a carefully choreographed dance. When he finally reached the wheelchair, he lowered his muzzle toward the apple. His teeth took the fruit with surprising delicacy, almost as if he feared frightening her. For a few seconds they remained close, the girl and the horse, united by a moment of mutual trust. "You're beautiful," murmured Lily, observing the details of the dark coat that shone under the light filtered by the leaves. "Where did you come from?" As if understanding the question, Windrunner raised his head and looked at her directly. There was a deep intelligence in those brown eyes, a wisdom that transcended what she would expect to find in an animal. "Lily! What are you doing out there?" Marcus's voice cut through the moment. He had appeared at the back door holding another official envelope in his hands. His expression changed when he noticed the proximity between his niece and the horse. "Stay. Away from that animal. It could be dangerous." Windrunner immediately backed up a few steps but didn't completely flee. He remained observing the scene, as if evaluating the new dynamic that was being established. "He's not dangerous, Uncle. He's gentle and intelligent. Look how he—" "Don't argue with me." Marcus approached quickly, positioning himself between Lily and the horse. "Wild animals can attack without warning. You must not approach him again." "But he's not wild. He comes here every day, always at the same time. It's as if what?" The question came loaded with an impatience that surprised them both. Lily observed her uncle's face. There was something there beyond concern for her safety, something that resembled fear, but of a nature she couldn't comprehend. "As if he knew me," she completed softly. Marcus remained silent for a few seconds, analyzing his niece's words. When he spoke again, his voice had recovered its usual controlled tone. "Come inside. We need to talk about some changes that are going to happen." Lily obeyed, but not without looking once more in Windrunner's direction. The horse continued observing, motionless like a living statue. At that moment, she had the strange sensation that he understood much more about the situation than anyone could imagine. As she passed through the door, she heard the sound of hooves slowly moving away among the trees. But there was something different this time, as if Windrunner wasn't really leaving, just changing position. The conversation that Marcus had promised took place that same night, in the poorly lit living room. He positioned himself behind the coffee table, creating a physical barrier between himself and Lily, who observed each of her uncle's gestures attentively. "I need to tell you about some important decisions," he began, nervously leafing through a set of documents. "Decisions that will affect our future." "What kind of decisions?" "I'm thinking about us moving away from Portland. There are work opportunities in other cities, places where we could have a more peaceful life." Lily felt her stomach tighten. The house where she lived held her last memories with her mother, and the idea of leaving everything behind deeply frightened her. "But I like it here. My doctors are here, the physical therapist, the neighbors who know me." Her voice came out more fragile than she intended. "You'll adapt. Children adapt quickly." The response came automatically, as if he had rehearsed those words. "And why now? Did something happen?" Marcus hesitated. His eyes avoided his niece's direct gaze, fixing on the papers on the table. "They're practical matters, financial. The maintenance of this house is expensive, and there are other complications." Complications. Nothing you need to understand. Now. That night Lily could barely sleep. Her uncle's words echoed in her mind, mixed with the growing sensation that something wasn't right. She had noticed how he avoided talking about specific deadlines, how he looked away whenever he mentioned financial issues. The next morning, Windrunner appeared earlier than usual. Lily was still having breakfast when she saw his familiar silhouette among the trees. There was something different about his posture, a restlessness she hadn't noticed before. "Uncle, can I go out to the garden?" "No. Today we have important commitments." Marcus didn't raise his eyes from the newspaper, but his response was firmer than normal. "What commitments?" "We're going to visit some schools. I need to arrange your transfer." "Transfer? But you said it was just a possibility." "Things have changed. We need to accelerate the process." Lily looked out the window. Windrunner remained in the same position, as if waiting. It was the first time she wouldn't be able to meet him at the usual time, and that left her strangely distressed. During the journey to the schools, Marcus drove with visible tension. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, and he constantly checked his cell phone at traffic lights. Lily tried to make conversation several times, but he responded with monosyllables. "Uncle, are you okay?" "Of course I am. Why do you ask? You seem nervous." "Just focused. Making important decisions requires concentration." At the third school they visited, while Marcus talked with the principal about bureaucratic issues, Lily noticed fragments of the conversation. That reached her. Urgency of the process. Documentation is in order. Delicate situation. The words seemed to carry a weight that she couldn't completely comprehend, but that left her uneasy. When they returned to the car, she gathered courage to ask a direct question. "Uncle, why did the principal talk about a delicate situation?" Marcus remained motionless for a few seconds, the key in his hand, without starting the car. "You heard wrong." "I'm sure I heard correctly. What's really happening?" "Lily?" His voice came out tired, almost resigned. "There are things in adults' lives that are too complex for a child to understand. Trust me. Everything I'm doing is for your own good." On the way back, they stopped at a traffic light near the ecological park. Lily looked out the window and saw something that made her gasp. Windrunner was there on the other side of the street, observing the car, as if he knew exactly where they were. "Uncle, look, it's the horse." Marcus followed his niece's gaze, and his expression changed completely. What she saw on his face wasn't surprise, but something close to alarm. "That's impossible," he murmured, more to himself than to her. "What's impossible?" The light turned green, and Marcus accelerated abruptly, leaving Windrunner behind. But through the rearview mirror, Lily could see that the animal had begun to move in the same direction as them, maintaining a distance that seemed calculated. "Uncle, he's following us." "Horses don't follow cars, Lily. You're imagining things." But the denial came too quickly, too automatically. And for the first time, Lily realized that Marcus was consciously lying to her. The question that formed in her mind was disturbing. If he lied about something as simple as a horse, what else might he be lying about? That night, while Marcus made calls in a low voice in his office, Lily remained awake, looking out her bedroom window. There was Windrunner, motionless among the trees like a silent guardian, and for the first time she wondered if his presence there wasn't a coincidence. The September sky dawned heavy with dark clouds, and the strong wind stirred the trees in the ecological park. The weather forecast announced a storm for late afternoon, But Lily felt that a different kind of storm was approaching, one that had nothing to do with the weather. Marcus had woken up especially tense. Since the early hours of the morning, he had been speaking on the phone with an urgency she had never witnessed before. His words were cut off, cautious, as if he feared being overheard. "I can't wait any longer. It has to be today. After that, everything will be resolved." Fragments of the conversation reached the kitchen, where Lily was having breakfast alone. For the first time in weeks, Windrunner had not appeared at the usual time. She constantly looked out the window, searching for his familiar silhouette, among the trees, but found only the disturbing emptiness. "Lily, finish your breakfast quickly. We have a special outing today," announced Marcus, putting his cell phone in his pocket with an abrupt movement. "Outing, but it's going to rain." "It will be quick. I want to show you a beautiful place before we move." There was something forced in his smile, too artificial to seem genuine. Lily knew her uncle's expressions well after months of living together, and that one wasn't natural. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise. You like surprises, don't you?" She didn't answer. Something in his tone made her feel uncomfortable, as if that sudden kindness hid other intentions. During the preparations to leave, Lily noticed that Marcus constantly checked the clock and looked out the window with a frequency that bordered on obsession. His hands trembled slightly while helping to put her in the car, and she noticed small drops of sweat on his forehead, despite the cool weather. "Uncle, are you okay? You seem nervous." "I'm just anxious to show you this special place," he replied, avoiding her gaze. The car followed routes that Lily knew well, but then took less familiar directions. The traffic was heavy due to the rush hour, and Marcus showed growing impatience at each traffic light. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel and sighed deeply, as if fighting against some internal pressure. "Where exactly are we going?" "You'll..." "See, be patient." Minutes later, she recognized the imposing structure that was approaching. The St. John's Bridge, one of Portland's landmarks. The steel cables cut through the grey sky, and the river ran noisily dozens of meters below. We stopping at the bridge?" "Yes, the view from here is magnificent. You can see the entire city." Marcus parked the car in a shoulder area and turned off the engine. For a few seconds, he remained motionless, breathing deeply, as if gathering courage for something. Then, he turned to her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Shall we?" The wind was stronger than in the city, stirring Lily's hair and making her chair wobble slightly. Marcus pushed the chair with a strange determination, heading directly for the center of the bridge. The cars passed at high speed beside them, creating gusts of air that intensified the sensation of instability. "Uncle, it's very windy. Can we go back?" "A little more. I want you to see how small the city looks from above." They approached the protective railing, and Lily felt vertigo when looking down. The height was impressive, and the sound of running water mixed with the noise of traffic, creating a deafening symphony. "It's very high," she commented, trying to disguise her discomfort. "Sometimes, to see things clearly, we need to gain perspective," said Marcus, positioning himself behind the chair. There was something in his voice that made Lily turn to observe him. His eyes had an expression she had never seen before, a mixture of determination and something that seemed very much like desperation. "Uncle?" At that moment, the first drops of rain began to fall, thick and cold. The sky darkened quickly, and distant thunder announced the arrival of the storm. "I think we should leave," suggested Lily, feeling growing anxiety. "No, not yet." The response came dry, definitive. Marcus moved closer to the railing, pushing the chair to a position that alarmed her. They were dangerously close to the edge, and the strong wind made the chair oscillate. "Uncle, I'm scared. Can we get out?" "Of here?" Marcus didn't respond immediately. His hands gripped the handles of the chair with a force she could feel through the metal structure. When he finally spoke, his voice came out altered, loaded with an emotion she couldn't identify. "No, Lily. Sometimes life puts us in situations where we need to make difficult choices. Choices that might seem wrong, but that are necessary. What are you talking about?" The rain intensified and lightning cut through the dark sky. The bridge was beginning to empty, with pedestrians running to seek shelter. Marcus remained motionless, oblivious to the storm forming around them. It was then that Lily noticed something on the horizon that made her heart race. A dark figure was approaching along the bridge, running against the wind and rain. Even through the curtain of water, she immediately recognized the familiar silhouette. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us what city you're watching from. Let's continue. Windrunner, whispered Lily, barely able to believe what she saw. The horse galloped across the bridge with a determination that defied any logic. His steps were firm and precise even on the wet asphalt, as if nothing could divert him from his objective. Marcus followed his niece's gaze, and his expression changed completely. "This is impossible," he murmured, panic showing in his voice. "How did he—" The question hung in the air when he realized he had lost the moment. The hesitation had cost him precious seconds. With a sudden and desperate movement, he pushed Lily's wheelchair directly against the protective railing. The impact was dry, violent. The chair slid on the soaked floor and crashed against the concrete with a force that partially projected Lily's body beyond the safety barrier. Only the wheelchair's safety belt and her own instinctive reaction of grabbing the armrests prevented her from falling. "Uncle!" The scream came out desperate, loaded with incomprehension and terror. Marcus observed for a few seconds, his breathing labored, his face contorted by a mixture of determination and regret. Then, without a word, he ran back to the car, leaving her suspended between life and the abyss. The rain was now falling torrentially, transforming each surface into a slippery trap. Lily felt the weight of the chair pulling her downward, her hands slipping on the wet armrests. The deafening noise of the storm muffled any cry for help she might make. That's when Windrunner arrived. The horse positioned himself at the edge of the bridge, analyzing the situation with an intelligence that transcended any animal behavior she knew. His brown eyes fixed on hers for a moment that seemed eternal, as if communicating without words. "I'm here. You're not alone." With calculated and precise movements, Windrunner approached the railing. What happened next defied all laws of physics and nature that Lily thought she knew. The horse positioned his robust body against the side of the chair, using his weight to prevent it from continuing to slide. Then, with almost human care, he bit the rear handle of the chair with his teeth and began to pull, exerting a controlled force that gradually brought Lily back to the safety of the bridge. Every movement of Windrunner was deliberate, thought out. When he managed to move the chair away from the edge, he didn't stop. He continued pulling and pushing, taking her to a more protected position on the bridge, far from danger and partially sheltered from the cutting wind. Lily was in shock, trembling, violently, not just from the cold of the rain, but from the late comprehension of what had happened. Her own uncle had tried to— the word was too difficult to form completely in her mind. "You saved me," she murmured, extending a trembling hand toward the horse. Windrunner approached and gently touched his muzzle to her palm. The warmth of the contact contrasted with the cutting cold of the storm. Then, in a way she would never forget, the horse lay down next to the chair, offering his body as protection against the wind and rain. There they remained, united against the storm and against something much worse than the forces of nature. Lily felt Windrunner's regular breathing beside her, his solid and comforting presence in the midst of chaos. Gradually, emotional and physical exhaustion began to overcome her. The last thing she remembered before losing consciousness was the sensation of absolute security that emanated from that extraordinary animal, as if he were a guardian sent specifically for her, capable of facing any danger that threatened her life. The storm continued through the night, but Windrunner didn't move even once. He remained in his protective position, like a living statue defying the elements. His nostrils steamed in the cold air, but his eyes remained alert, watching for any threat that might arise. When the first city maintenance worker arrived to check the storm damage the following morning, he found a scene he would never forget. An unconscious girl in her wheelchair and a majestic horse standing guard beside her, both soaked but alive. The image spread quickly, emergency workers, doctors, onlookers, all were impressed by the dedication of the animal that refused to leave the girl's side until she was completely safe. Windrunner only allowed them to approach Lily after the paramedics clearly demonstrated their intentions to help her. Even then, he accompanied the ambulance to the hospital, running alongside the vehicle like a dedicated escort. At that moment, all those present understood that they had witnessed something extraordinary. Not just a rescue, but a connection that defied any conventional explanation. The story of the horse that had saved the girl began to spread throughout the city, but no one yet imagined how deep the mystery surrounding Windrunner was. And while Lily was being attended to by doctors at the hospital, a question echoed in the minds of all who witnessed the scene. How had an animal managed to demonstrate such intelligence and determination? The answer to that question would change everything they thought they knew about nature and about the invisible bonds that connect all living beings. The Portland Methodist University Hospital had become the center of an unprecedented commotion. In less than 24 hours, the story of the girl saved by the horse had spread through social networks, radio, and local newspapers. Reporters crowded at the entrance, waiting for any information about Lily's condition and about the whereabouts of the heroic animal. Inside room 314, Lily awakened slowly, surrounded by medical equipment and the characteristic smell of a hospital. Her first concern was not with her own condition, but with a question that came out in a hoarse whisper. "Where is Windrunner?" The nurse who was checking her vital signs smiled kindly. "The horse is fine, dear. He's in a temporary shelter nearby, receiving all the necessary care. Can he visit me? The hospital normally doesn't allow animals, but your case has generated a special mobilization. We're studying a safe way to permit this meeting." Dr. Robert Mitchell, the doctor responsible for the case, entered the room carrying a clipboard and an expression of professional concern mixed with genuine curiosity. "How do you feel, Lily?" "Tired, but okay." "Doctor, why did my uncle leave and leave me alone on the bridge?" The question hit the doctor like a punch. He exchanged glances with the nurse before sitting in the chair beside the bed. "Lily, there are some people who would like to talk with you about what happened yesterday. Investigators who are trying to understand the whole situation." "Investigators? Did my uncle do something wrong?" Before Dr. Mitchell could answer, the door opened and two men entered. Detective Carl Fisher, an experienced man of about 50, and investigator Michael Stone, younger, specialized in crimes against vulnerable persons. "Hi, Lily. My name is..." "Carl, can we talk a little bit?" She nodded, adjusting herself in the hospital bed. Something in the detective's gentle tone made her less anxious. "Do you remember what happened on the bridge?" "I remember almost everything. My uncle took me there saying he wanted to show me the view of the city. But when we arrived, he became strange. He pushed my chair against the railing and left." "Did he say anything before that?" Lily closed her eyes, trying to reconstruct the moments before the incident. "He talked about making difficult choices. That sometimes we need to do things that might seem wrong, but that are necessary." Detective Carl and investigator Michael exchanged significant looks. Michael noted the exact words in his notebook. "Lily, how long have you been living with your uncle?" "Since Mom had the accident 8 months ago." "And how has the coexistence with him been?" The girl hesitated. "He was never affectionate, always talking about financial issues, letters from lawyers, inheritance. I would ask about these things, and he would get irritated." "What kind of things did he say about inheritance?" "That they were adult matters, that I could only understand when I turned 18. But in the last few days he was talking about us moving away from Portland." At that moment, Michael received a message on his cell phone. He read it quickly and whispered something in the detective's ear. "Lily, we're going to let you rest now. We'll return later to talk more, okay?" Outside the room, the two men talked in low voices. "The security footage confirmed everything," said Michael. "Marcus Andrews clearly appears pushing the chair against the railing. There's no doubt about his intentions." "And the financial situation?" "Complicated. He owes almost $500,000 in failed investments. Lily's inheritance would be his only way out. Have we issued the arrest warrant? Yes, but he's disappeared. He abandoned the house during the storm and hasn't been seen since. Meanwhile, at the municipal veterinary shelter, Windrunner was receiving care from a specialized team. Dr. Amanda Smith, chief veterinarian, examined the animal with a mixture of admiration and perplexity. "I can't understand it," she commented to her assistant. "All the exams indicate that he's in perfect health, but there's something unusual here." "What did you find?" "During the routine examination, I detected a small subcutaneous object in the neck region. It seems to be some kind of implant." The fee. Assistant approached to examine the image on the ultrasound. "An identification microchip? More sophisticated than that. It's an advanced tracking device, similar to those used in wildlife research programs. But the technology is much more advanced than anything I know." "How did that end up in an urban horse?" Dr. Amanda shook her head, intrigued. "That's a question for which I have no answer. But there's one more strange thing. According to the analysis of the device, it has international origin. The manufacturer is an American biotechnology company specializing in animal communication." Animal communication? Research on how animals process complex information and respond to specific stimuli. Studies on advanced animal intelligence. That same afternoon, Dr. Amanda received an unexpected call. "Hello, Dr. Smith. This is Dr. Marcus Thompson from the Animal Communication Institute of San Diego. We received information about an animal with one of our research devices. We need to talk urgently." The revelation about the implant opened a completely new dimension in the mystery of Windrunner. If he really was part of an international research program, this would explain his exceptional intelligence and his ability to act in an almost human way. But it raised an even more intriguing question. How had a research horse specifically ended up in the park next to Lily's house? And why did he seem to have such a deep connection specifically with her? The answers to these questions were about to change everything that everyone thought they knew about the nature of that miraculous rescue. The arrival of Dr. Marcus Thompson in Portland caused a stir in the local medical and veterinary community. The American researcher, a 60-year-old man with graying hair and penetrating eyes, carried with him information that would completely change the understanding of Windrunner's case. At the hospital, an extraordinary meeting was organized in the conference room. Present were Dr. Robert Mitchell, Dr. Amanda Smith, Detective Carl Fisher, and connected by video, Lily herself from her room. "Before I begin," said Dr. Thompson, opening a folder full of documents, "I need you to understand that what I'm going to share is part of a highly confidential research project, but circumstances force us to break this protocol." He activated a projector, and the first image showed Windrunner in a completely different environment, a modern laboratory with state-of-the-art facilities. This horse, whom you know as Windrunner, is actually named Zeus. He was part of Project Pi, Empathy, an experimental program on communication and emotional bonds between species. Dr. Amanda leaned forward. "What kind of experiment?" "We were studying the ability of animals to form deep empathic connections with specific humans, especially in situations of vulnerability. Zeus was one of our most successful cases." "But how did he get here? And why did he specifically seek out Lily?" asked Dr. Mitchell. Dr. Thompson hesitated before answering, as if the next words were difficult to pronounce. 3 years ago, Zeus formed an extraordinary bond with a young researcher who worked with us. She also used a wheelchair, due to a neuromuscular condition. The connection between them transcended all the parameters we expected. Lily, watching through the screen, felt her heart race. What was her name? Helen. Helen Rhodes. The silence in the room was deafening. All eyes turned to the screen where Lily remained motionless, processing the impossible information she had just heard. That was my mother's maiden name," she whispered, her voice trembling. Dr. Thompson nodded gravely. "Helen worked with us for 6 months as a visiting researcher, studying communication between species. She and Zeus developed a connection that defied all our scientific protocols. When she needed to return to the United States due to a high-risk pregnancy, Zeus was inconsolable. "My mother never told me about this," said Lily, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "She made us promise to keep the project secret. Helen had concerns that her discoveries could be misused, but before leaving, she participated in a final experiment." Dr. Thompson clicked to the next image, showing a pregnant Helen beside Zeus, her hands gently touching the animal's muzzle. "We were testing the possibility of an animal forming empathic bonds, not only with one person, but with their yet unborn descendant. It was theory at the time, but the results were surprising." "Are you saying he connected with me before I was even born?" Lily's voice came out incredulous. "Zeus's neurological data during the sessions with your mother showed unique patterns, as if he could perceive not only her emotions, but also those of the baby she was carrying." Detective Carl intervened. "This explains how he found her, but not how he got here. Zeus escaped from our facility 2 months ago. Our tracking team followed him to Miami, then lost the signal. We didn't imagine he could have come to Oregon." Dr. Amanda consulted her notes. "The tracking device was still active when we examined him. How did you lose the signal?" "Zeus is extremely intelligent. We believe he found a way to interfere with the device, activating it only when necessary to avoid complete detection. But why now? Why did he come looking for Lily at precisely this moment?" asked Dr. Mitchell. Dr. Thompson displayed complex graphs on the screen. "Zeus's device not only tracks location, it monitors his emotional and neurological states. In the last few months, we recorded extreme anxiety peaks, as if he sensed that someone connected to him was in danger." The revelation hit everyone like lightning. Zeus had crossed continents, escaped from a research facility, and found a specific girl in a city of 2 million inhabitants because he could feel that she was in danger. "This means," said Lily slowly, "that he sensed my uncle's intentions even before I realized. It's the only logical explanation. Zeus developed a capacity for empathic perception that goes beyond what we considered possible. He not only feels your emotions, but can also perceive threats to your well-being." At that moment, a nurse entered the room carrying news that everyone was waiting for. "Dr. Mitchell, the hospital has approved the special visit. The horse can see the girl." When Windrunner, Zeus, was brought to the hospital in a carefully planned operation, his reaction upon seeing Lily confirmed all the scientific theories. He approached the bed with almost human delicacy, gently rested his muzzle on her hand, and remained motionless, as if he had finally found what he had been searching for so long. "He came to protect me," murmured Lily, stroking the silky mane. "He came to finish what he promised my mother." Dr. Thompson observed the scene with tears in his eyes. After years of scientific research, he was witnessing something that transcended any technical explanation, a love that had crossed species, continents, and time to fulfill a silent promise. The story of Zeus and Lily wasn't just about a miraculous rescue. It was about connections that defy our understanding of the nature of empathy, love, and protection. It was about living proof that some bonds are so deep that neither distance nor time can break them. And while the city of Portland continued following the unfolding of the case, one certainty was consolidated. This had not been just a casual encounter, but the fulfillment of a promise made years before, when 2 souls connected in a way that science was still learning to understand. 3 months after the events on the bridge, Portland had transformed into the setting of one of the most touching stories that America had ever known. The house where Lily had lived with Marcus now sheltered a completely different family. Her Zeus, who kept the affectionate nickname of Windrunner, and Mary Sanders, a special education teacher who had become her legal guardian. Mary had been chosen after a rigorous process conducted by Child Protective Services, but the final decision belonged to Lily herself. From their first meeting, the connection between them was genuine and natural, based on mutual respect and true affection. "Good morning, my dear," said Mary, entering Lily's room with a breakfast tray. "Today is a special day." "Why?" asked Lily, sitting up in bed and looking out the window, where Windrunner grazed peacefully in the garden that had been specially enlarged for him. "News has arrived about your uncle." The smile on Lily's face partially faded. Even after all these months, talking about Marcus still made her uncomfortable, mixing hurt with a confusion of feelings that she was still learning to process. "Has he been found?" "Yes, the FBI located him trying to cross the border into Canada. He was arrested and will answer for attempted aggravated homicide." Mary sat on the edge of the bed, taking Lily's hands tenderly. "But the important thing is that you're safe now, and justice is being done." "I still can't completely understand why he did that," said Lily, her voice carrying a maturity that shouldn't exist in a 10-year-old child. "Sometimes, Lily, people make terrible choices when they're desperate. That doesn't justify what he tried to do to you, but it might explain it. He was bankrupt with enormous debts and saw your inheritance as the only way out." "And now? What happens to Mom's money?" "It's all protected in a trust fund until you turn 18. You'll have a comfortable life and will be able to fulfill your dreams, including becoming a veterinarian." Lily's eyes lit up. "A veterinarian specialized in animal communication. I want to study what Dr. Thompson researches." "And I'm sure you'll be brilliant at it." At that moment, a gentle neigh from the garden caught the attention of both. Windrunner was standing near the window, observing them with that deep intelligence that had become his trademark. "He knows when we're talking about important things," observed Lily, smiling for the first time in the conversation. "Dr. Thompson told me that Zeus's empathic bonds with you continue to strengthen. It's as if he were developing new capabilities. It's true, sometimes I feel that he understands not just what I'm feeling, but also what I'm thinking." The living room door opened and Dr. Thompson entered, carrying a familiar folder and a warm smile. His monthly visits had become a tradition eagerly awaited by everyone. "How are my two favorite researchers?" he asked, greeting Mary and kissing Lily's forehead. "We're good. And the news from the project?" "Extraordinary." Dr. Thompson opened the folder, revealing complex graphs and data. "Zeus continues to present unique neurological patterns, but the most impressive thing is that he's not only maintaining the bond with you, he's teaching other animals." "What do you mean?" "The horses at the therapeutic riding center where he spends his afternoons have begun to demonstrate similar behaviors with other special children. It's as if Zeus were transmitting his empathic abilities." Mary leaned in to see the data. "This means he could be creating a network of therapeutic animals." "Exactly. We're documenting cases of children who showed significant improvements after interacting with horses that spent time with Zeus. It's revolutionary." Lily smiled, feeling a wave of pride for her special companion. "He's helping other children like he helped me." "And there's one more piece of news," said Dr. Thompson, his eyes shining. "The university has approved our proposal to create a permanent research center here in Portland. You, Lily, will be our official junior researcher when you're ready." "Really?" Lily almost shouted with joy. "Very serious. You have a connection with Zeus that is unique in the history of our research. Your participation will be fundamental to fully understanding the potential of interspecies communication." That afternoon, Lily spent hours in the garden with Windrunner, processing all the changes that had happened in her life. Seated in her chair under the shade of the silk cotton tree, the same tree where they had met for the first time, she conversed with him as she always did. "You knew, didn't you?" she said, stroking his mane. "Knew that everything would turn out all right in the end." Windrunner tilted his head, gently resting it on her shoulder. It was his way of saying yes. "Mom would be proud of both of us. You kept your promise to her." At that moment, Mary appeared at the back door carrying an official letter. "Lily, a special correspondence has arrived for you." It was a letter from the Portland City Council informing that Zeus had been officially named Animal Protection Ambassador of the city, and that Lily had been invited to the award ceremony the following week. "We're going to be honored?" she asked, incredulous. "You two saved more than your own lives," explained Mary. "Your story has inspired changes in animal protection legislation and created a support network for children in vulnerable situations. And we'll continue helping other people. For your whole life, my love, for your whole life. That night, as Portland prepared to sleep, Lily remained awake for a few extra minutes, looking out her bedroom window. Windrunner slept in the garden, but even in repose maintained an alert posture as if still standing guard. She thought about her mother, how Helen had planted a seed of love and protection that had grown beyond any expectation. She thought about Marcus and how greed can corrupt even family bonds, and she thought about the future, a future where she and Windrunner would continue discovering the mysteries of communication between species. "Thank you," she whispered to the silent night, not knowing exactly to whom she was directing the gratitude, whether to her mother, to Windrunner, to Mary, or to the invisible forces that had conspired to bring them all together. From the garden came a response in the form of a soft, melodious neigh. Windrunner was also awake, and his response sounded like a renewed promise. "I will always be here, I will always protect you, we will always be family." And so, under the stars of Portland, a girl and an extraordinary horse continued writing a story of love, protection, and hope that transcended all barriers. A story that proved that the deepest bonds know no limits of species, time, or distance. Life had given them a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it together.